Good afternoon, boys and girls. Welcome. Let's see. We'll wait until we get maybe a couple before we get into this too much, before we get some folks online, because I didn't get the pre-stream up as early. Oh, I've got something with audio not muted. Somebody's echoing. Where is that coming from? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Let me just mute this. Give me a sec, guys. Sorry about that. Had an extra stream open and didn't mean to, and so I was getting an echo of myself. And let's face it, nobody wants to listen to me like that, do they? So good afternoon, folks. As I said, we'll get things rolling here. But yeah, so I'd like to thank DM and Eli from Canonn for joining me today. We're gonna kind of talk about what Canonn is, the history of Canonn, how you can get involved, what they do, all that good kind of stuff. With that, let me kick it over to, I'll give it to you first, DM. Why don't you let the boys and girls know what you do and what what Canonn's all about, or what you do for Canonn.
All right. So my name is Commander DMehaffy, or just DM for short. I've been with Canonn for probably 2-3 years now. But I am the head of our research and development department, which is specifically geared towards tool development, such as like our Guardian Ruins tool, our API, EDMC plugins, all that. And then as a side job, I maintain all of our recorded sites. So all of the reports, all the sites, all the GR obelisks, all of that stuff comes through me first, and I review every single report that comes in. So
Okay, great. And what brought you to Canonn originally?
so I started my elite days. I was a member of EIC, the East India Company, and I first heard about Canonn when the Guardian Ruins popped up.
Okay.
One of my EIC guys mentioned it. We flew out to the first beta site that was found and started messing about. And then I found Canonn and saw a lack of documentation, so that's where I started building spreadsheets.
Okay. And how long ago did you say how long ago that was? Did I miss that?
I want to say it was about 2 years,
Okay.
something like that. Whenever the Guardians came out.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been a while then. Eli, why don't you do the same for us?
All right, so I joined quite a bit more recently compared to DM. I joined just because while I was just looking for things to do in Elite, me and a friend of mine decided to go and do that whole 100 scans
The
obelisk mission.
The Ramta missions.
Yeah, the Ramta mission.
Yeah.
And we just had a bunch of fun with it, driving around in SRVs, crashing into each other, reading through all the lore, and it was just a lot of fun just doing that little bit of just retracing all the steps of all that discovery, and made me decide to join Canonn. And then DM here found out I had a skill set that would be helpful to R&D, so he dragged me into it, and here I am.
We have a saying in Canonn that if you don't want to be part of R&D, don't mention that you have any coding skills, because you don't get asked to join R&D. You get drafted. I was about to say, to join
exactly.
R&D.
You get pulled into it, right? And so, with that, why don't we transition a little bit to and I'll kind of in general kick these questions to both you guys, so feel free to just jump in as you like. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Canonn. DM, why don't you start with telling us, because he told me a little joke at the beginning. If you guys have noticed, Canonn is correctly misspelled, meaning I didn't misspell it in the title. That is how it is spelled. Tell us why it's spelled that way.
So the story as I've heard it, because there's always a lot of hearsay, and Dr. R. Canon's a huge mystery, but Dr. R. Canonn was the primary founder of Canonn back in April 3301, right?
Okay.
And
So
as
just
far as I'm aware, when he was making his name for Elite, he was drunk and spelled it wrong. Well, it's kind of snowballed from there to the point where it's just like, fuck it. I mean, why not? And as a side benefit, the domain was a lot cheaper.
well, and as I said to you before we started, right? That's kind of what I've always assumed, right? It just is the domain. The fact that you couldn't get Canonn without the double N or something like that, right? So I find it very, very funny that the reality is that it just kind of turned out that way. Especially that somebody was drunk, right? That says a lot about Canonn probably, and for a lot of players that might consider joining, right? Hey, they're obviously welcoming of those that enjoy some fun while they play, right? And just quickly for those that are kind of watching before I head out, I'm just going to kind of jump. I'm probably going to head back to the base here in a second to show you guys. But this is one of we'll talk about stuff that Canonn looks for and things and catalogs later. But I'm on a planet pretty far out. I'll bring up the galaxy map for everybody. I'm in the Scuda Nebula. I think this is Eagle because I think there's a base here that's called Eagle. So I'm pretty far. Let's see. I'm 10,000 or so, I think, from Sol. And I'm floating above some of the new, I'm 11, almost 12,000, floating above some of the new brain trees that are in the game that are the Livians bioluminescent ones. And as you guys see, these things are rather pretty. They're especially when you find them like I am right now on the dark side of a planet. And especially when the dark side of that planet not only is in the middle of a red nebula, but has a ringed gas giant up in the sky. Last time I was here, the gas giant was at a much better perspective, and you got this much wider view of the ring, which I think you also get from the base. So I'm going to head back there, but just wanted to share that before we jumped away. So one of the things we also talked about before we started was the structure of Canonn and how and where people might find interest and join up with Canonn. Why don't we talk a little bit about that, the different roles in Canonn, the different ways that people can get involved.
So we have differing departments depending on what we're talking about. In some cases, there may be a little bit of just the general structure. At the top level of Canonn is the council, and they're basically the admins of the group.
Okay.
All the core decisions, everything has to go through the council. It's voted on, so we don't really have a single seat of power type of thing. For each of the departments, we have what's called a boffin, and that is the department head. So in my case, I'm the boffin of R&D.
Okay.
Some of our departments are like geology for all like the volcanism stuff, biology for all of these new biosites like the brain trees, the ammones, fungal gourds, etc. And then we have exploration, which is anything that it doesn't have a real classification. That's kind of like our broad group. So star classes, odd systems, etc. And then obviously we have guardians, Thargoids, and lore. So lore is kind of an oddball one in that it focuses a lot more on the in-game history, and it kind of overlaps again with like guardians and their lore. And then obviously there's R&D and
Can't forget the tinfoilers.
Oh yeah, and
Yep.
The department that is very rarely mentioned and I stay very far away from is the Raxilla department.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, it's funny. I often give some of the guys in our Discord shit about Raxilla in that I'm sorry, but I don't believe for 1 second it's actually in the game right now. Right? Like, I don't care what Frontier says. I don't believe it. Right? I'm convinced that when they decide they want us to find it, they'll turn it on and then it'll be found in relative short order after that. Right?
That is one of the running jokes, is that Frontier has a whole team of people build puzzles that Canonn solves in an hour.
Oh, well,
kind of like
Yeah, and actually, let's talk about that quickly, about the history of some of that kind of stuff, because I know, like you said, you guys have been really well known for those kind of things. Specifically, if I remember when the first Guardian, God, was it maybe Guardian or Thargoid sites were like teased on one of the videos. I believe it was somebody in Canonn that figured out, like, triangulated the star position of the screenshots to figure out what planet it was on, and found it like minutes after launch. Am I remembering that right? Do you guys know what I'm talking
It
about?
it took a little longer than that, and I don't remember if he was Canon affiliate or not. I'd say his name was Sex Death. That,
Uh,
but yes, it did come out of a teaser video, and as far as we know, there have been conspiracy theories and all that stuff, of course. He did figure it out based on the star map, which, interestingly, that has kind of sparked an idea that a couple of the other EDCD guys are working on, where we're helping build something that you can track star locations from any system
okay, okay.
and being able to find stuff. That's a whole tinfoil thing that gets really technical that I'm
Uh,
not terribly well versed in, but
Tell
interesting
everyone.
side effect for you.
Automated star triangulation.
Yes,
Yeah.
automated star triangulation.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And quickly, just tell everybody what EDCD is. Just 'cause since everybody might not know the acronym.
So EDCD is the Elite Dangerous Community Developers. We're kind of like a group of all of the devs from all walks of life. We have SDC guys in there. We have Fuel Rats. We have Spanish, Anther from EDSM, EDDB, EDDI. Like, all of the core tool developers are all in a single group, and the focus of that group is to talk with each other, to work with each other, and also to work directly with Frontier so that we can keep our tools up to date and
Sure.
build new stuff as Frontier builds stuff out.
Sure. And I actually just got a really great question from Hired Cam in chat. He said, "Has the new exploration mechanics made any difference in discoveries to Canonn?" Right? Like his.
Oh boy.
Oh, okay.
I can
All right. There we
I
go.
can rant I can rant on this for hours.
Okay. Okay.
The short and sweet answer is fuck no.
Okay. Okay.
Fuck the codex.
Okay.
It is an extremely watered down version of everything. Now, there
Yeah.
was some
Yeah.
benefits that came out of that, such as me being able to actually collect data on geo and bio sites, which we could not do previously. And it's now gotten to the point where I can almost completely automate those reports, which is, oh my gosh, it saves me at least 10 to 20 hours a week reviewing those reports. But in terms of actual in-game exploration and data viewing, it is utterly pointless.
Yeah, and I'm just posted in a link in chat to my video, but a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, I did a video called "The Real Codex: Find Amazing Sites Easily," and it basically, I explain the codex and show people how it works and stuff, and how completely pathetic it is. And now here's how you really go find things, right? Things like EX Tool, things like Spanish or Spanish, however you want to say it. The even Hosbase, right, where you can put in a location, because all of those tools, what I think is amazing about them, where the Canonn or where the codex rather completely breaks down, is you can say, here's where I am. Show me cool shit that's nearby, right? And sort it by distance from me, so that it's not just, like right now, and I'll show the boys and girls, if I go to the codex, and even if I say, okay, discoveries, let's see, okay, biological and xenological, okay, well, let's go to organic structures, and okay, these lattice mineral spheres. So, okay, so here's one. So now I have to open this, and let's say there were multiple, figure out, okay, now I see that's 10,000 light years away. Well, why didn't it tell me that on the screen before this? So now I go back. Oh, well, look, now I'm at the top of the codex. Like, well, where the fuck was I? Okay, so now I've got to browse it. Well, wait, was I? And it's just, it's pathetic.
Yeah, and I think that the codex only lists the discoveries for, I think, the first one discovered within each galactic region.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was that bad too, right? I
mean,
mean,
so you don't have a reliable account of basically how many sites are in a region. So the thing with Canonn, and the reason why we record the data the way we do, which that's a whole other thing also, but is a lot of our pilots spend a whole hell of a lot of time outside the game researching this stuff. So I have people that are comparing all the metrics and saying, okay, we find a lot of this type, like some rare bioluminescent amount in this particular region, but we are not seeing it over here. Is that just due to a lack of information? Is there something specific about this particular region of space? And we actually have people who spend their time writing college level research papers, like super detailed, sites and sources at the bottom, and they write these awesome research papers that we show on our site. And it blows my mind on what kind of people that we have in Canonn. I have people that have NASA backgrounds. I
Yeah.
have people that are professors. They have, masters in astrology. Like this is where these people get their kicks and funs. Like they could care less maybe about, flying around and pew pew and all that. They get their fun out of finding this stuff and researching it.
Yeah, and you hit on one thing that I'll just touch on real quickly that I've always been a really big fan of about Elite is the fact that it really is, and this is good and bad of it. There really is 5 different games to 10 different types of gamers. Right? Like, if you do want to go, PvP, or you do want to go shoot at aliens or shoot at humans, great. If you want to do exploration and just be out in the black forever, great. If you want to do mining, or you want to do, there's so many different things you could do, right? That it really frees it up to you picking your own play style, right?
Okay, so just to chime in on what the chat is amused at.
What did I say?
DM is drunk.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
We should have pointed that out. We should have pointed that out at the top of the stream.
So, I am sorry if I mispronounce things. I'm about
No, you said astrology.
He did say
astronomy.
That's great.
Oh, okay. Yes, I am drunk. I'm sorry.
What's funny? It went right past me too, right? And I just woke up, so I'm definitely not drunk.
No,
right?
Clearly we need like some Guardian themed tarot deck.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And see, apparently Canonn, has no problem with enjoying a few drinks while you enjoy the game. So, right.
Oh no, yeah, we don't pay our pilots with credits. We pay them with whiskeys and biscuits.
No, it's not just that we're okay with it. It's that being on board the Gnosis comes with a 2-drink minimum.
Great. Well, and to segue from that, let's talk about the Gnosis briefly. Why don't you guys? I first start by letting everybody know what the Gnosis is, right? And
I can cover this one. It is. I think. I'm pretty sure we're still the only player-controlled megaship in the game.
I think
that is correct.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, as far as I know, that's true.
Yeah, it is effectively a mobile station, and we submit a flight plan to Frontier, and once a week on Thursdays, this thing makes up to a 500 light year jump according to our flight plan, assuming Frontier approved of it, which sometimes they don't tell us. But
yeah, and if when they don't approve, do they get back to you and tell you why?
As far as I'm aware, I'm not sure if we've ever been declined a route.
Okay.
Outside the Cone Sector incident,
I was just about to say. Well, let's talk about one specific
that's a different
time.
topic. We'll get to that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a side one. But
right.
As far as I'm aware, we either get a yes or we don't get a reply. So
Gotcha. Right.
It's just we submit it, we don't get a reply. Thursday shows around. Oh, hey, the Gnosis jumped. Cool.
Gotcha. And and to that, how would you guys say working with Frontier is? I mean, do you guys feel like you get really good support and love from Frontier? Do you feel like it's a tenuous relationship and a struggle, kind of like a lot of certainly us that create content feel that it's it is difficult to work with them? Like, what's your overall take?
So I can speak from this from 2 sides. From the EDCD side, we get excellent support. We have a lot of the senior Frontier developers sitting in there, and we converse and give feedback and stuff. From the Canonn side, I'm not high enough privy to most of the interactions, but I do have some interaction with them from the Canonn side.
Okay.
We really don't converse with them that much, at least not anymore. For the Gnosis, we fill out a spreadsheet in Excel and we email it to them. And we either get a yes or we don't get anything.
Okay. Okay.
So there's not a huge line of communication for the Gnosis. I mean, Del Monte could probably speak more about it, considering he's the one who actually handles that information. But other than that, I can't really speak much to it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm glad to hear that about EDs, about the developer community, right? For those that don't know the story, there was it almost 2 years ago when they all went on strike?
Oh fuck, I can't remember, but yeah, we did have the blackout day.
Right. And essentially the gist of it there was, to put it mildly, there were some demands made of, look, there are things that we need, and if we're not going to get these, this is a problem, right? I mean, to put it bluntly, right? So all of the major sites, if I remember right, Inara, EDDB, ED Shipyard, Coriolis, right, all of those essentially went on strike for a day, and if I remember right, it was within like 4 hours that Frontier was like, "Oh my God, please no, please stop!" Right? Like we will, we will do whatever you ask. Just please go back online, because I mean, I remember that day being like, "Well, I guess I won't play right now because there's nothing I can do," right?
It was the primary concern was a lack of. I'm sure all of us are aware. Here, sucks at communication. Stay with me.
Speaking of
communication.
Well, and quickly, speaking of communication, I don't know if you're on push to talk or not, but your mic is breaking up pretty badly. It's like it's cutting in and out, like sensitivity's not right or something. I don't know if you could do anything about it, but
yeah, let me check.
It's unfortunately not great at the moment. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just want to see if we could get that fixed. So let's see. Where were we? We were talking Frontier, the blackout dates. Eli, were you around at that time? Do you know what I'm getting at?
No, that was not something I was involved in.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Most of my work within Canonn, besides showing up on streams and stuff like this, is a lot of back end stuff like server maintenance and keeping all like the fancy new databases and tools online.
Sure. And maybe that's something to discuss briefly, is the tools that you guys do make available to the public, right? What those are.
Yes, there is one in particular we'd really like to talk to people about, because we'd really like as many people as possible to be using it. And that is our EDMC plugin.
Am I right? That's in the list of links that you gave me, DM?
It is, yes,
okay, yes.
Along with your 2 tutorial videos for EDMC and EDSM.
Yeah, so if you guys look in the description, YouTube and Twitch, you'll see the links for those tools. And it's on my list, I promise, to do a video about that plugin, specifically because of the other project we're working on, DM. But yeah, so tell them about that tool, what they would do, what they would use that for. Either Eli or DM. Oh shit. Well, hold on. My Discord is freaking out. Hold on.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, sorry. I had a red in Discord, like I wasn't getting service, so sorry about that.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Okay.
Discord is a great program made by great people.
It is.
I have some opinions on that another time.
Another time, sure.
But yeah, so I didn't catch most of what you said.
So I was just saying, tell us about the plugin, like what people would use it for, like those kind of things. I think we were going along talking about that basically.
Okay. So first off, shout out to LCU No Fool Like One, because he's the guy who created it, and it's really awesome.
And is very actively maintaining it.
Yeah, very actively maintaining it. He is a great guy. And so what the plugin does is you use EDMC, you install the plugin, and whenever in game you come across something or scan something that is of interest to Canonn, in addition to your data being submitted to EDSM like normal, a little bit of extra data gets submitted to Canonn that EDSM doesn't track.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And it is entirely passive, at least for the moment. Eventually, we will have some active reporting that'll be done with another tool that we're working on, but most of it is completely passive. So you land, you jump out in your SRV, and you composition scan something, or if you're in one of the new Lagrange clouds, you scan it while you're in your ship, obviously. And all of that data is just passively sent to Canonn, whereas previously we were using Google Forms, and we do still have some sites that are using that simply because of the data we require. We can't get passively in the game.
Gotcha. Right. And what type of data are you guys collecting there, and then what does that get used for?
So with the plugin, all of the geological stuff gets passed to us.
Okay.
Most of the biological, with the exception of the Thargoid barnacles, and then we do track the Guardian beacons because I can passively gather that data. The only major exceptions are Guardian ruins, Guardian structures, Thargoid structures, and generation ships. Those four, we have a lot of work to do both on our side and Frontier side, so we're speaking with them about that. But the data is primarily dumped into our API, which then can be consumed by anyone. So I know EDSM has plans of using some of our data. Spanish is actively using our data. EXTool is using it, but on that flip side too, EXTool is actually in the process of merging into Canonn. That tool is going to become our new front end, because at the moment we don't really have a good front end to look at our data, with the exception of our Google Sheets, which those are going to be archived anyway.
Personally, I'm very excited to hear that. In fact, I right now am using EXTool in the background as I'm kind of just jumping around and finding various stuff. Right. For those that haven't used it before, I talked about it in the Codex video I posted recently. Really fantastic tool, right? Great interface. I'm a big fan of it. If you want to go find stuff to see that's cool, that's what you use. I mean, in fact, that's why I'm in the system that I am in right now, just kind of jumping around to, is because of that, right? And so, when you talk about the Spanish, whatever, EDB, I mean, all these different tools like EXTool, are they all using a common database, or do they all use their own individual databases, or is it a mix?
So we have what's known as the primary three. So you have EDDB, who's basically all market, population, and faction data. Inara is all about player groups and faction / BGS, I think.
Also, nice boop there.
I just posted in chat. Ouch! Right, I wasn't paying. I was looking at chat. And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm going too fast." Right. So sorry about that.
It's okay. And then EDSM, who handles stellar data, and I'm hoping that Canonn will be the fourth one in that primary grouping of being the science data, which is realistically the only part of Elite that does not have an API on it. So either the tools are using these four primary APIs, or they have their own databases, or no storage at all, depending on the tool.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. Personally, I'm thrilled to hear that you guys are merging with EXTool, because again, I think they've got a really powerful front end, really nice interface, and anytime that data can be shared amongst different groups, and everybody doesn't have to reinvent the wheel all the time, I think that's a really good thing.
So not to use you to advertise, but I'm going to use you to advertise.
No, please. That's the whole point.
So, if there are anyone listening that is skilled in any kind of front-end development, I don't care what it is. It could be JavaScript, it could be PHP, it could be HTML. Whatever it is, if you are good at front-end, or if you are good at design or graphical design, please hit me up. R&D is always hiring, and I say hiring lightly because we only pay you in biscuits.
And whiskey.
And whiskey. We're always looking for more people. And just to point it out for any of you coders out there, Canonn is a registered nonprofit in the EU, and all of our code is open source. Everything that we build is open source. You can go to our GitHub, you can fork, clone, whatever you want to do. You can modify if you want to help us, submit pull requests, whatever it be. It's all open source.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't realize that myself, so I'm very glad to hear that. Right. And yeah, no, I again happy to. The whole point is to let you guys tell everybody about what you do, right? And right now I'm floating around one of these the bell mollusks. I don't think I've seen one of these. I'm in my alt account right now, so I haven't scanned all this kind of stuff in it. And this is just I'm in one of the Lagrange clouds. You guys might have seen it. It shows up as a notable stellar phenomena. It is nice. We talked a little bit about the new tools, a bit, and I think it's very nice that the new tools, at least some of this stuff now shows in our nav panel, right? Like, the notable stellar phenomena showed right up. If you scan a planet and it's got biological stuff on it, it's going to show up right away, and there's, for the most part, there's no more like flying just aimlessly to, to a various planet, like doing planetary coordinates, right?
Yeah, and it also means that those of us who played before this get to do the whole back in my day.
Oh,
we
totally.
wanted to find some Guardian ruins.
Totally.
We had to scour the surface of the planet uphill both ways.
Yep. And if no, go ahead, DM.
We didn't have no automatic orbiting either.
So, just to put this into perspective, so fumaroles, it's a volcanism type.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Last year, over the course of 12 months, we had about 200 sites reported and confirmed.
Okay.
Since the most recent patch, we are now up to 1,998 fumarole sites confirmed.
Okay.
And that is in the course of what? 5 months?
Yeah. So we talked about, we were kind of shitting on the new exploration tools at the top of the stream, and I think that to a degree we should give them some credit. Would we?
They're a double-edged sword for Canonn, because on one hand, the way they work from a coding perspective is why that plugin we have can exist.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
The downside, though, is that we worry that it will make people complacent about reporting things. They're going to think, like, people who aren't running the plugin might discover a site and be like, oh, well, it's recorded in game, so clearly that's all I need to do.
Right.
Yes.
And
that.
Sorry. Go ahead, please.
That does become my biggest problem. For those that know me, know I am extremely anal about data completency. I like all my I's and T's dotted and crossed, all my P's and Q's in order. Like, I am extremely anal about complete and accurate reporting. So it's frustrating when I hit pilots who are like, well, I don't really see any need to run the tools because it's all in game. And what people don't understand is there's no real way to maintain that data. I mean, especially when you're way out in the black. So like the DW2 guys, fantastic support from them.
Oh, I'm sure.
We had such a massive influx of data coming from DW2, and as far as I'm aware, I only had maybe 15% of the pilots running my plugin at the time, because I mean that was when we basically first released it. So
okay, so I'm gonna answer someone's question real quick, because this
I hope
relates
it's
to what we're talking
I hope
about.
it's the one I was about to ask from Nacho.
Yeah,
Nacho. Please. Yeah.
So we still have manual reports for a couple of things, and DM, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think even some of the things covered by the plugin we still do have manual reports for, but we're getting rid of those soon.
I've pretty much decommed all geo and bio manual reporting.
Okay, yeah. I knew we were in the process of that.
Yeah. The
but
only
I didn't really finish
exception
that yet.
the only exception is barnacles. That is the only one that.
Yeah. So basically, anything the plugin covers, manual reporting is gone for. But there are still a few things that the plugin doesn't cover, namely basically everything Thargoid, as far as I know.
Yes, there is also a flip side to that too. There is some scientific data that the plugin sends that I am not currently tracking in a standardized way. A perfect example of that is being
We are archiving that data, though, right?
Yes, we are
Okay.
archiving it so
Okay.
that I can go back and pull it. The biggest example is that is the Grange clouds, and the primary reason behind that is I cannot deduplicate the data. So if you jump into a system and say there's 2 clouds, you go visit one, it's one type. You go visit the other, it's another type. But if I have 10 commanders doing that and I suddenly get 20 reports of those clouds, I don't actually know how many clouds are in that system.
I gotcha.
So that's one of the things where we're talking to Frontier through EDCD and saying, hey, here's some things that we need because I can't accurately record this information. And obviously it has to go through their whole process and etc. But we are recording a lot of extra data that isn't put into our standard formats.
Yeah, gotcha. And so when it comes down to it, what you guys really hope and want is for people to use the plugin. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right?
And I mean, we also have some tracking in place too, so that if Frontier releases something new and they don't tell us about it, it's not in the patch notes, and somebody happens upon it, I already have all the data that I'm going to need to build out the standards to track it, to offer it to other track the metrics on this stuff. Because
gotcha.
unlike Canonn proper, all this and researchers, great job. Sometimes they're not as great as saying, here are these metrics, this is what we need to track, and we build out the standards for it. So it's one of those double-edged blades, kill two birds, one stone type of thing.
And quickly, there's another question in chat. What's the difference between EDMC and EDSM? EDMC is ED Market Connector, so that's the little app that the plugin goes in, and there's numerous plugins for ED Market Connector. I have a tutorial on ED Market Connector. Again, it's linked down in the description. Great little tool. If you're not using it, it's absolutely something you should. And then ED Star Map or EDSM is ED Star Map, right? So that's a site. Then again, there's a plugin, or I think ED Market Connector has native support for ED Star Map.
Yes.
Yes. You create. No, go ahead, please.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, you create an account on EDSM. It gives you an API key. You put that API key in the app, and then everything you do, all your discoveries, every system you're going through, all that kind of stuff gets logged in it, right? So you can see stats on all your first discoveries and where you've been and yada yada yada, right? And then where other people have been, and right. So it's a great site. So that's the difference between the two of them.
And for clarification, because it is a question that I get a lot with ED Discovery, which is another desktop app that sends information.
That's right.
At this time and for the foreseeable future, Canonn has no plans to build a plugin for that app.
Okay.
Typically, what I recommend for Canonn pilots is if you want to use ED Discovery, that's great. No problems with it. But if you're going to be sending data, use EDMC. Have EDMC send all of your data to Inara, to EDDB, to EDSM, to us. Have that one app that you can just start, minimize, and just let it go.
Sure.
And send all the data. And then ED Discovery is great for viewing your own personal information, right from your journal file. You can have it up on a second monitor. You can look through it. Awesome tool. I love ED Discovery.
Yeah,
but there are some... go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, but as an example, I have my personal setup where I have EDMC pushing data to all of these sites. And then I have EDD pulling data from those sites.
Gotcha.
And that is my setup, and it works great, and yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think, tell me if I'm wrong, have we gone through kind of all the different tools that Canonn offers to players, all the different things, like if someone didn't necessarily want to join Canonn, what would they get from Canonn, right? Like, what would they come to you guys for? What would they learn from you guys? That kind of thing.
Anything and everything. The one thing about Canonn is we are entirely open. There is no secret science. You can jump on our website, read all of our documents, read all of our reports. You can pull data from our tools. I think the only one I didn't mention, which really isn't used all that much anymore, is our Guardian Ruins tool for the original Ramta 101 mission.
Is that still even a thing? Can you even still do that mission, or that's...
Yeah. You can, and
okay.
I do actually have a nice chunk of traffic that still goes to it. The only one that I haven't really... I've been kind of trying to push updates for it, but the problem is we're missing one of our core people for it, is for Guardian Structures.
Okay.
There's some technical stuff that we have to handle before we can update our Ruins tool to handle both, especially with the blueprints and all that stuff. But
I've actually been wanting to look into that personally, because I wanna do some nice new maps of all the ruins with those icons I had made.
Oh yeah. Commander Talden, who runs ED Shipyard, actually just hit me up yesterday. He had built a tool for generating optimal route for the Guardian Ruins. He just updated it yesterday. It is live. I can post a link to it, but it is still kind of in testing.
Okay.
If anyone's actually interested in getting into that original Ramta mission.
Yeah, why don't you post the link in Discord, and then that way I can post it into chat, into both chats, so everybody sees it. And so, going along there, one of the things that came out today that isn't necessarily, a Canonn thing, but it's part of the new interstellar initiatives and all that stuff, is the new advanced, I think it's called the Advanced Multi-Cannon. If you guys haven't and you're a fan of Yamix, he put a video up about it already, and it's very typical Yamix, giving it a very hard time. For those that don't know, it's a class 1 or 2. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I believe fixed only, but I could be wrong about that.
It is.
Okay. Multi-cannon that does both human or AX damage, but to do AX damage, you have to synthesize ammo for it, and to synthesize ammo for it requires Guardian materials, right? So grinding at Guardian sites, which is not an easy thing or a quick thing to do. And so talk a little bit about how you guys, if at all, get involved with Xeno stuff. Like, we talked about it a little bit before we started.
So, Canonn, for those that are unaware, we are entirely neutral and passive. What that means is most of our pilots, at least flying under the Canonn name, do not participate in PvP. That being said, Canonn itself accepts pilots from every walk of life. You are more than welcome to be an SDC member. One of our longest members is actually Harry Potter. He's been with Canonn forever.
Sure.
And
at least since I...
And he is harmless when he's in the private group. He obeys the rules just like everyone else.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
When it comes to Xeno stuff, Canonn is kind of split down the middle, where we have pilots that are all for killing aliens, and there's the other side where they think maybe we should go the scientific route, try and open a line of communication, only defending ourselves when aggressed upon, that type of thing. So we do
like a particular incident.
Cone sector.
Yeah, that debacle.
We do actually have a partnership with another player group called AXI, the Anti-Xeno Initiative. So typically, if people want to discuss anti-Xeno stuff like fits and weapons and whatnot, we kind of push them over to the AXI guys. That being said, we do still allow people to talk about the weapons and the materials and how to get them, and all of that typical sciencey stuff within the Canonn Discord.
what kind of, and since you use the words, we allow them to do X, Y, and Z, what things are off limits? What things do you guys not allow? What things do you guys take seriously when it comes to that kind of stuff?
So the short and sweet version of that is, if it is against the Frontier EULA or Terms of Service, it is banned.
Yeah, okay.
And we take a absolute zero tolerance policy on file dippers. And for those that may not understand what that word means, it means basically reverse engineering the game files locally on your machine to pull data out that you should not have access to without finding it actually in the game. If you pretty much even mention the word file dipping on our Discord, it's almost an instant ban.
And
there are very few instances where we have rolled back bans on that.
Sure.
Combat logging, it's kind of one of those gray areas. If Frontier says no to it, then we say no to it. I know. Sure. It's kind of one of those things where if you're menu logging,
it's technically, menu logging technically doesn't break the rules. Task killing absolutely does. But yep. Let's not have yet another combat logging debate and discussion.
Obviously, cheating, hacking, zero tolerance policy.
Sure.
If you're found to be doing any of that, instant ban.
Yeah, and that's obviously great. I mean, it's nice that a player group has, or sad, I should say, that a player group has a much firmer policy than the company that makes the game, and hey, is willing to state that policy versus the company that makes the game. One question, if we go back to file dipping, if I can ask, kind of playing devil's advocate, why do you guys feel so strongly about that? Can you talk to that? Do you know why?
Absolutely. It ruins the game for everyone else.
Yeah, okay.
What Canonn is and what we do is enjoyment in exploration and finding this stuff and being the first person to put our name on things. Like, that's what we find fun. The credit, the notoriety, whatever it may be, that's what we do. So when people are file dipping, it's like, dude, this could have been a couple weeks, a couple months of me actually out there in the black and having fun and finding this stuff, and you spend an hour reverse engineering the game and ruin it for everyone. It's kind of like,
yeah, okay.
Go ahead, Eli.
To put it a little more poetically, I mean, what seems more interesting, having some NASA engineer examining a bunch of stellar data to pinpoint, these specific type of Lagrange clouds form under these specific conditions, or someone who found some file that they can dig into
Sure.
that just says, if these variables are true, spawn Lagrange clouds.
Sure. Actually, here's a quick side question while we're on it, just out of my curiosity. Are Lagrange clouds an actual real thing? Like, I tried to do some Googling on it and couldn't find anything like that it's anything other than
So my
game
understanding of it is, the term for like, now, again, I am not some NASA engineer, so I
Sure.
might be totally wrong on what I'm saying here, but from my hobbyist interest in space stuff, my understanding it's referring to like Lagrange points, which are just locations in orbits where just the various interactions of gravity tend to cause things to accumulate in certain areas.
Right.
They're
okay.
often in a lot of sci-fi, they're very popular as locations for like space stations to be, because it would be much easier to maintain a space station's orbit in one of these locations.
And is it? No, I was just getting confused between that and the Berry Center. Sorry.
In theory, I guess. So, again, this is total conjecture here. But my assumption is that when they're calling them Lagrange clouds, it's because, it's a bunch of stuff in orbit that is accumulating at these Lagrange points, thus why they're called Lagrange clouds.
Yeah, you get the typical space dust, random space junk, things collecting on one.
Sure.
Gravity well types.
But there's not something where, what did you say? Astrologists? Oh, wait, I mean astronomers have said, like, we've discovered what we think or predicted a Lagrange cloud. It's more just, that's it's a little bit of, I mean, it's actually completely video game, which is not bad, right? But video game hand wavium, right?
Looks like someone posted a link to nicespace.com doc
I
for
just
points.
Yep, I just pasted that in. Thank you, Nacho. I appreciate it, buddy. And I just put that in chat for everyone.
Yeah. Those are the Lagrange points I was mentioning. Now, having organic things in space accumulating there, yeah, I don't think that's something that we've discovered.
Right,
Yeah.
Mark. Yeah, quite obviously, right. Um, so, so let's see. What else haven't we touched on? Since we're kind of getting toward the end here, I'm going to try to keep this one relatively short, guys, right at an hour, with the goal of that way, if people want to come back later and watch it in a little more of a podcast form, they can. And it's not, I don't know about you guys, but if I see a 3-hour stream from someone, there's no chance I'm watching it. What, are there, what things have we not covered today that you guys, that you want to specifically get in?
We didn't go over the cone sector drama, but I'm okay with not doing that.
Yeah, that's probably been beaten to death. Since you just brought it up, I'll mention what it is really quickly. Was it back in September? Is that right? If I got the time basically right?
Somewhere around in that range, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So their ship, the Gnosis, we've talked about that ship. The plan was it was going to jump into a system or a sector that was previously inaccessible and permit locked. Am I remembering right?
So the outer edges of the cone sector were permit locked, but there were a certain amount of systems on the interior that were not. And based on the jump range of the Gnosis being 500 light years, we were under the assumption that we could jump into those systems since they didn't require permits.
Yeah, okay. And so Frontier, kind of a big deal was made of it. It kind of grew into this thing, right? And if I remember right, like 11,000 commanders showed up. Am I at all getting that number correct?
So after the Cone Sector event, I had reached out to Brett with Frontier, and he had to work through a chain of command, but eventually got us some numbers, and I want to say it was closer to around 30,000 people.
Okay. So in short, 30,000 players at the prospect of, man, what could be there? Is there something exciting? Is there anything we can find? And probably a somewhat proportion of those that were, maybe going out there to grief those players, because some of that definitely happened. And, so it was this big event, and then the night that the jump was going to happen, all of a sudden the a forum post, no, it went to the website that has like the Galnet articles. So all of a sudden a Galnet article comes out a few hours before the jump is even supposed to happen about how the jump had failed and there was like this error and something like, or he'd been attacked by the Thargoids. Am I remembering that right?
Yes.
Is that what it was? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So it'd been attacked by the Thargoids, and everybody's like, and it jumped literally 5 light years when it was supposed to jump 500, right? And everybody was like, well, wait a minute, is this accurate? What this is, it's not even supposed to jump yet. Well, sure enough, the tick over came, it jumped, it only jumped 5 light years, it went nowhere. On top of that, to compound insult to injury to these 30,000 players that had flown roughly 1,000 light years from Sol to even get to where the Gnosis was, then it jumps in and the Gnosis got attacked by the Thargoids, such that when you would spawn into your ship and take off, like for me, I couldn't even get off the pad before I was destroyed, right? Because I'm in an exploration ship and there's scouts and cyclopses all around the station, the Gnosis attacking you. And even adding insult to injury there, they didn't turn off the no fire zone. So if you were in a combat ship, you took off and opened fire, you immediately got a fine for breaking the no fire zone. And then when you invariably got killed, you respawned 1,000 light years away in a detention center. So it was just like,
I would like to throw in my two cents on this one. I feel the whole Cone Sector incident was... It was a very unfortunate case because once they had the fines fixed, once they decided maybe let's not spawn hydras on the Gnosis,
right,
and just have scouts surrounding it, and maybe let's have the scouts not immediately attack things still on landing pads.
There was 2 other bittersweet things about that. So Frontier also used this event to drop the new Thargoid
The Hydra,
Medusas.
or the Hydra, right?
Yeah, the Hydra.
The Hydra. The
Hydra.
Medusa was already out. Yeah, the Hydra.
And in regards to them not turning off the no-fire zone, the Gnosis was also opening fire on Allied pilots trying to defend the Gnosis.
Okay, because you violate the no-fire zone, you get fined. Gnosis attacks you because you're now a bad guy, right?
Yes.
And, to the point about the Hydra is the thing that was so frustrating there is Canonn is not an anti-AX, an anti-Xeno organization, right? I mean, in any way.
That is one of the main things that pissed me off is I am on the side of opening a line of communication, like give me a storyline, etc. with the Thargoids. The other side of it too is I actually liked this event before it happened. Like,
oh yeah,
I want to see more of this stuff, like these dynamic player events, player driven, like Distant Worlds 2. It's cool, don't get me wrong. It's not as fancy and whatnot, but I want to see more of these awesome events. Like maybe later on when carriers and whatnot come out, like we get these cool player driven combat things where the Thargoids start attacking player owned megaships again, or things like that. It was a neat idea, very poorly executed.
Yeah, and there you go, right? And I think, while to Eli's point, once they finally got everything sorted out, if I remember right, that was in like the 12-hour range, because I remember when, and DM joined us this is when we were doing the Creators Roundtable, and discussed this issue, right? And I even remember at one point, DJ saying something like, oh, well, I give them credit for getting it fixed, quickly in like 12 hours. And I was like, are you kidding me? I give them no credit for that because these are things that shouldn't have been broken in the first place. Right, because it ruined. It was all of the hype, all the excitement, and then bam, it's all fucked up. The whole community was pissed.
Just to argue on the other side of this a little bit.
Sure, go right ahead.
So I mean, I think the unfortunate nature of the Cone incident is that had it been handled better, I think it would have been received very well.
I completely agree.
It was a unique event. We've never had Thargoids directly attacking people on a station before.
Yep.
It was introduction of a new Thargoid variant. It was a lot of cool gameplay. We even got some interesting player stories of, again, the mention of Harry Potter, notorious for just killing anyone he comes across in open, was instead in open leading wings of combat pilots to escort people out of the system.
Sure.
And it was a really interesting thing that was going on. It's just a shame that it was handled so poorly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I completely agree with you. And, I remember saying at the time, one of the things, and DM, you're kind of getting at this too, in a way, I think, is I was afraid that what was going to happen is because it was such a cluster and because it went really badly for Frontier, I mean, nothing but bad, that we would never get another thing like it. And to this day, more than 6 months later, we haven't. Right. And I think that was the very negative, unfortunate side effect of it.
Yeah, when after the whole Cone event sector happened, and I won't say who, but my contacts within Frontier saying they were on major damage control. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely.
It will take a lot of convincing and long thought out processes, I think, before they ever do something like that again.
Yeah, well, and now we haven't talked about this much, and I'm not going to get into it now because we're at the end, but we get what I think are the pretty lame interstellar initiatives, right? Which are, a silly reskin, community goals with forum votes in right? Like, why are we using the forum for this kind of stuff, right? Like, literally, we can't build this stuff in the game. But that's a whole nother topic. So yeah, just a little cautionary tale and history lesson for those that weren't around for the Gnosis and that debacle. In fact, up until I think it was even a month ago, the account that I'm in right now, I just haven't gotten to do a lot of long range exploration, was still on the Gnosis. Right, like that, because I was just kind of so sick of the whole thing. My attitude was, what, screw it. I'll just go back and do what I do, do my combat stuff.
Like, we have the benefit of hindsight on it. Like, I could think of a couple of ways Frontier could have handled it better that I think it would have overall been received a lot better.
Sure.
And that would have been instead of hyping up the whole exploration aspect of the cone sector, they should have been hyping up the danger of this jump. They could have had
Agreed.
Eagle Eye pointing at the Gnosis.
Yep, agreed.
They could have had they could have said oh, long range observations are detecting a bunch of Thargoid activity along the jump route.
Yep.
We did get that one. There.
Okay.
We
did. Yeah,
we
did get
Aegis.
that one.
Aegis did put out a Galnet article. I think it was like a couple days or something before we were supposed to jump. Which, not that there's anything we could have fucking done about it anyway, but they did warn that. But unfortunately, it was extremely hyped for the explorers, which were the bulk of the pilots on the Gnosis. So it was basically a slaughter. I mean,
I mean, that was the thing, right?
It would have been great if they had hyped up the Thargoid aspect instead.
Right. I mean, and because everybody saw it going into this as an exploration event, right? This was going to be a way to get to somewhere that you'd never been, and maybe there would be things to discover and rich things to see that no one had ever seen, things like that, right? And no, I mean, and the other thing we all said too is they could have let the thing jump the 500 light years and had the attack occur in that system. Right, then all the explorers get to, if they get away from the ship, right, they then get to see what, or search for any new exploration stuff. The combat guys get their fun and everybody's happy. Well, instead, the only people that had any fun at all essentially were griefers or the few anti-Xeno guys that were there, right? And sure, the Hydra is ridiculously OP, right? So there was definitely some fun to be had, but it just wasn't. It was, let's take a passive exploration group's event and turn it into an incredibly dangerous combat event. And for the poor commanders that then did have to respawn in detention 1,000 light years away after a few minutes, I mean, I just can't. You log in, you're like, hey, oh, this is cool. Oh, wait, I've got to find what? And now that you're 1,000 light years in detention after, looking forward to this and the buildup for it was weeks, right? I mean, it was like a couple weeks at least.
It was. I think it was almost a month.
Okay, that's what I had in my head, right? So, okay, well, let's jump away from that. Let's not end on sour grapes here. To wrap up, why don't we go back kind of where we started real quick? Just, I'm sure we've got some people here that weren't at the beginning. Let's end with talking about again kind of what Canonn is, how people would get involved, what they'd be able to do once they're involved. All that kind of stuff.
So, like I said before, it doesn't matter who you fly with. You could be STC, you could be EIC, you could be a fuel rat. We have a lot of those.
I'm a fuel rat.
Yeah. We have quite a lot actually that
doesn't surprise me. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me a bit.
No matter what you do, you're always welcome in Canonn. All you got to do, jump on our website, register for an account, then you can jump on our Discord, post the link to your profile from our website, and you'll get your member tags. Even if you don't want to join as a member, you can still jump into our Discord. Most of our channels are all open for reading and writing messages. We have recently changed some of our specific department channels are locked to members only, and that's just simply to cut down on the amount of spam that we are getting, especially with Raxla.
I would imagine.
Holy fuck.
I would imagine. Yeah, and actually, since you just mentioned Raxla, why don't you really quickly, in 15 seconds or less, explain what Raxla is?
We have no fucking idea.
Eldorado.
Good answer.
It is that mythical unicorn out in space that
it is the space equivalent of Eldorado, Atlantis. It's the lost city.
Yeah.
It's the thing all the crazies are searching for, because once they find it, it's going to make them famous.
Yeah.
And it's not in the game. At least I'm convinced of that.
So I just wanted to mention, too, for anyone that wants to stick around after the live stream, we are in the Discord.
Yeah,
on
actually,
the
that's a
Discord
great.
for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, that's great. And hold on, I'll post a link. And usually, for the guys that are regulars to the stream, know that I usually have the streams as an open conversation, and very much encourage people to come in, ask questions, chat. I definitely do that on the Tutorial Tuesday streams. We wanted to keep this one a little quieter, a little more private, since I wouldn't say this was an interview, but since we were going to talk about some very specific stuff with these guys, so I didn't open it up this time. But yeah, please do come by afterwards if you'd like to chat a bit. I will definitely be on here for a little bit and do some stuff myself. So let's go back to just quickly, and we'll finish up here with kind of, we talked about how to find it. All the links for everything we're talking about, guys, are in the descriptions for both YouTube and Twitch, so it's all down there. Let's talk about how people would get involved. Mention the plugin again, and then I think we'll wrap it up there.
Absolutely. So plugin is your number one resource for helping us out. It submits all the data we need. If you want something really specific to focus on, all you got to do is look at our data sheets. If you see anything that has an assignment on it, maybe I need someone to go fly out to a system and get some coordinates, or I need you to scan a body, or for instance, brain trees. Holy hell, I have a lot of really old brain tree data that I need a lot of clarification. We're missing a lot of types. For barnacles, if you're interested in Thargoid stuff, barnacles are odd because they have a cycle, or most of them have a cycle where they're kind of dead and they don't give you anything, or they're viable and they provide materials.
Okay, interesting. I didn't even know that. Okay.
We do the science of figuring out what those cycles are, when they're going to be active, what kind of materials they are, what kind of types they are, the layouts of them, etc. If you're interested in doing any of that stuff or just learning about it, come on in. I can feed anyone anything that they want to do.
Sure.
I have Guardian stuff that needs to be confirmed. I mean, if you're interested in finding new stuff, for the first time in like 2 months, I think, I just had like 5 new Guardian ruins and Guardian structures found, and I think 1 new beacon.
Okay.
So there's still sites out there to find. It's just a matter of getting people joining and getting them out flying around looking for it.
Well, and one thing I also want to stress to, maybe new commanders to the game, those that don't have a lot of experience yet, don't have long range ships, long jump ranges, which just quickly, if you have not gone and unlocked the Guardian FSD booster, make it the next thing you do. It takes about 90 minutes tops. It is not difficult. I have a tutorial on it. It's actually, I think, my most viewed video of the last 6 months. It'll add 10 light years of jump range to any ship with the class 5 module. It comes in class 1 through 5. You definitely want it. So just a quick shout out for that. But you certainly don't need engineering for this kind of stuff. The Guardian FSD booster is kind of a no-brainer. But anybody at just about any level of gameplay can get involved with this kind of stuff, right? There are cool things. Yeah, right now I'm 12,000 light years from the bubble, but there is plenty of stuff right next door. I've mentioned a couple times my Real Codex video that talks about a lot of the tools we've talked about today. But go see this stuff, right? There is plenty of stuff nearby. You don't have to spend days and days and hours and hours and hours jumping to then see just a field of like giant anthills like I'm rolling around right now, right?
For people that are wanting to look at some new stuff that I actually need more data on, the Ammophora plants and the crystalline shards. Those 2 sites are new within the past few months, and I really don't have a whole lot of data on them.
Okay. Yeah, and actually,
people who want to come research stuff, that's a good thing to get into.
Yeah, and the cool thing I think that you guys are, we've talked about the fuel rats a lot today, right? You guys in the fuel rats have very common kind of missions, I would say, in that it's very much about helping the community, helping other commanders, enjoy the game more, seeing things in the game they might not. It's a very community driven effort, and I think that's the reason both groups have lasted as long as they have and been so successful. The fuel rats obviously get all the publicity, since they are actively rescuing people, and people are, oh my god, thank you so much to them, right? But both groups have a very similar I believe, if I'm incorrect, a very similar mindset.
We've had our moments where we have shined and gotten plenty
Oh,
of
sure,
publicity.
sure. Yeah, I don't mean to downplay that. Don't get me wrong there, right? I guess I just more, I mean, like, I know the fuel rods have been featured in like PC Magazine and you know, on the website, and right, things like that. They've gotten that level of publicity, right? But yeah, in the elite community, certainly. I mean, I would argue that you guys and the Rats are probably the two most respected organizations in the game.
We're probably also the two biggest. I'm fairly certain Canonn is the biggest, but
okay. Is there a Canonn
numbers
squadron?
Dwindle here and there.
Is there a Canonn squadron?
What's that? Yes, we have one for both consoles and PC, and I think we're actually filling up the PC one where we might have to start a second one.
Oh, okay.
We have to talk
but
to
wait a minute.
about it because I know that stuff's...
Yeah, the 500 member limit was more than enough. I mean, Yamix proved that in the first, like, what, day? Right?
Yeah. I want to say Canonn is upwards of like 8,000 to 10,000 pilots or something.
Yeah. Okay. That doesn't, and I don't think you're right. I don't think the fuel rats are quite that big, right? And the fuel rats are even less kind of organized in that sense than you guys are, which is, if you know, there's no such thing as an official fuel rat. Like, if you want to be the only thing that's official is if you've done 10 rescues where you got the first limpet on the client, you get the in-game fuel rat badge.
So as a fuel rat, I will say that that isn't entirely true.
Oh, okay. Correct me then.
So there for fuel rats, yes, anyone can just hop in and go in and do a rescue, but we do have basically a sort of training we put people through.
Oh, yes.
And if you have completed this training, you get a special tag on the IRC and are more likely to be deployed. So
sure. Actually, I didn't even think. Can you even do a rescue officially through the IRC if you've not done the training? I almost thought you had to.
You can.
Okay.
You can, but you will be at the bottom of the list for who gets dispatched.
Sure. And in fact, I actually have a tutorial video on how to join the fuel rats that covers the whole process of going through the rescue drills that he's mentioning, right? So if joining the fuel rats is something you're interested in, you know, please check out that video. They really are a fun group. The last thing I'll say about the rats is, if you're ever sitting and like, oh man, I need fuel, or you're just going to self-destruct. Like, I've had friends of mine who are like, I don't want to bother them. Dude, trust me, not only are you not bothering them, right now there are probably 5 commanders staring at the IRC going, please somebody call, because they want to go help people, right? So I think I've used them 4 or 5 times. I don't even hesitate if I need them, right? So
the last thing I want to mention.
Sure, please.
Canonn does have a similar, anyone can just come in and, join us. But we do have what's called the OBT, of the Biscuit Tin.
Okay.
That specific award goes to distinguished service rendered to Canonn, whether that be a major scientific discovery, a research paper, helping out new pilots, you name it. If you have shown willingness to contribute to the community in such a way that you get noticed by a large group of people, then you're awarded the OBT, and you also get a game code to get the little in-game Canonn badge.
Ah, okay, cool. I might have to hit you up for that after I do the plug-in video, right? I'd love to have a Canonn badge, right? So
yeah,
see if I qualify for that, right?
Other than that, I don't want to.
No, that's great. So, well, you know what? I think since we're a little over what I wanted to do, but this has been great. Let's go ahead and end it here. As has been said, and I'll unmute the Discord channel here when we're done. If you guys do want to come join us and chit chat a little bit, ask questions, talk about really anything. But thank you very much to DM and to Eli for joining me today. I appreciate you guys' time. Both of these guys, I think Eli is, hopefully none of his bosses are listening, is technically at work. And it's very late for you in terms of
I
your
work
day.
from home.
Oh, okay, well, great.
Okay,
perfect, right? And DM, do you work from home as well?
No,
okay.
I just got off shift at about 6 a.m.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It's about 11 for me.
Yeah, it's very late for you in terms of like normal people, right?
Yeah, I work third shift, so.
Yeah. So thanks much for your time, guys. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure we'll do this again at some point in the future. So thank you. And for the rest, again, if you guys want to come join in and chat with us, please do. It's nice to see some of the regulars on stream. Glad to do these again on Fridays at this time, so that I can get the European guys and let them get to participate a little bit. I'll be on Tuesday night for Tutorial Tuesday. Not sure what I'm doing yet, and I'm kind of thinking about adding a Thursday night stream potentially for those that were here a couple of weeks ago. I do a thing that I've named Sidewinder Slaughter. The idea is you get a group of people outside an anarchy station. Everybody spawns in Sidewinders, although in the future we might use adders or eagles or whatever else. And when you spawn in, everybody starts in a bone stock Sidewinder, and every time you die, you get to upgrade or add one module. And so if you die 2 or 3 times really quickly because you're not the best combat pilot, you're going to have an upgraded ship pretty quickly. So it really kind of self-balances, and there's no risk. The rebuy is like 5,000 credits, right? It's a really fun way to get to blast at each other, right? So I'm considering adding that as a weekly event on Thursday nights. So I'll see what the interest is. I'll bring it up again on Tuesday. So again, thanks everybody. Thank you to Eli and DM, and I will catch everybody here again soon.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, guys. Catch everybody soon.